Embedded options are contractual features included in many bonds that grant specific rights to either the issuer or the bondholder. These options affect a bond's cash flows and valuation because their exercise depends on future interest rate movements and market conditions. The most common embedded options are call options, put options, and conversion features. A callable bond gives the issuer the right to redeem the bond before maturity, while a putable bond allows the investor to sell the bond back to the issuer at specified terms. Because these options alter expected cash flows, traditional valuation methods based solely on fixed discount rates are insufficient. Callable bonds contain an embedded call option that benefits the issuer. When market interest rates decline, issuers can refinance their debt by calling outstanding bonds and replacing them with new bonds carrying lower coupon rates. This flexibility reduces borrowing costs for issuers but creates reinvestment risk for investors. Consequently, callable bonds typically offer higher yields than otherwise identical option-free bonds as compensation for this disadvantage. The value of a callable bond can be viewed as the value of an equivalent straight bond minus the value of the embedded call option. As interest rates fall, the probability of being called increases significantly. Putable bonds contain an embedded put option that benefits investors. This feature gives bondholders the right to require the issuer to repurchase the bond at a predetermined price before maturity. The put option becomes particularly valuable when interest rates rise because bond prices decline under such conditions. Investors can exercise the put and recover principal at a favorable price rather than suffer market losses. Since the embedded option benefits the investor, putable bonds generally offer lower yields than comparable option-free bonds. The value of a putable bond equals the value of an otherwise identical straight bond plus the value of the embedded put option. Valuing bonds with embedded options requires a framework capable of modeling both uncertain interest rates and changing cash flows. Unlike option-free bonds, where cash flows are fixed and known in advance, embedded option bonds have cash flows that depend on future interest rate paths and exercise decisions. Consequently, valuation requires an arbitrage-free interest rate model, commonly implemented through a binomial interest rate tree. This approach generates multiple future interest rate scenarios and determines bond values at each node. By incorporating the possibility of option exercise, the model captures the economic behavior of issuers and investors under varying market conditions. The valuation process begins by constructing and calibrating a binomial interest rate tree consistent with the current spot rate curve and interest rate volatility assumptions. At the terminal nodes, the bond's value equals its maturity cash flow. Analysts then apply backward induction, moving through the tree toward the present. At each node, the bond's value is calculated as the discounted expected value of future cash flows. For bonds with embedded options, the model compares continuation value with the value obtained through exercising the option. The economically optimal choice determines the bond's value at each node, ensuring arbitrage-free pricing throughout the tree. For callable bonds, valuation incorporates the issuer's incentive to redeem the bond whenever doing so reduces financing costs. During backward induction, the model calculates the continuation value of holding the bond and compares it with the call price. If the continuation value exceeds the call price, the issuer is assumed to exercise the call option because refinancing becomes advantageous. The bond's value at that node is therefore capped at the call price. This limitation creates negative convexity, meaning that callable bond prices rise more slowly when interest rates decline because potential gains are constrained by the issuer's right to call. Valuing putable bonds follows a similar framework but reflects the investor's exercise rights instead of the issuer's. At each node, the continuation value is compared with the predetermined put price. If the continuation value falls below the put price, the investor is assumed to exercise the option and sell the bond back to the issuer. Consequently, the bond's value cannot fall significantly below the put price, creating a valuation floor. This protective feature improves downside risk characteristics and generates positive convexity relative to callable bonds. As interest rates rise, the put option becomes increasingly valuable and supports bond prices. Embedded options significantly influence risk, return, and price behavior in fixed income securities. Callable bonds expose investors to call and reinvestment risk, while putable bonds provide protection against rising rates and declining prices. Accurate valuation therefore requires models that jointly consider interest rate uncertainty, option exercise behavior, and changing cash flows. The arbitrage-free binomial interest rate tree framework provides a practical solution by incorporating multiple future scenarios and optimal exercise decisions. Understanding the relationship between option-free bond values and embedded option values is essential for analyzing fixed-income securities, managing interest rate risk, and evaluating complex bond structures within the program.